Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a childhood classic, a film adaptation of the much-beloved story by Roald Dahl. But though at first glance it seems to be an innocuous story about a child winning a chocolate factory, the film actually harbours a much darker and insidious secret.
Now I am gonna be sick.
In today's video, I will explain how Grandpa Joe is actually the real villain in this tale, and most likely one of the evilest characters ever put in film.
What she wants is a good kick in the pants.
This video is why Grandpa Joe is the greatest movie villain of all time. The film opens with our protagonist Charlie Bucket, a child living in poverty, watching other children enjoy sweets at a candy store. He finishes his paper round and arrives at his dilapidated house and introduces us to his widowed mother and bedridden grandparents, Grandpa George, Grandma Georgina, Grandma Josephine, and Satan himself, Grandpa Joe. The grandparents have all lived in the same bed for the past 20 years, unable to leave due to their frail conditions, which is rather unhygienic if you think about it.
The four of you bedridden for the past 20 years, it takes a lot of work to keep this family going.
As soon as I get my strength back, I'm going to get out of this bed and help him.
Mrs. Bucket says, "In all the years you've been saying that you're going to get out of that bed, I've yet to see you set foot on the floor." To which Grandpa Lucifer retorts,
Maybe if the floor wasn't so cold.
We can see from this line that he is already set up to be a man who will look for any excuse for his bad behaviour. Charlie, who has taken on a job to provide for his family, surprises everyone with a loaf of bread that he has purchased. His mother is suspicious at first because food has been hard to come by due to their poverty and asks where he got the bread from.
How about this?
Charlie, where'd you get that?
Fearing that he has stolen it. Grandpa Joe, however, showing a lack of ethics, says,
What difference does it make where he got it? Point is, he got it.
We can see already that Grandpa Joe thinks he is above the law and that stealing is fine as long as it is to his benefit, and this foreshadows the moment where he steals fizzy lifting drink from Wonka, but we will get to that later. Right now we can see that Grandpa Joe is a lazy, entitled crook, but it gets worse from here, his character development continuously going downhill until he reaches his natural habitat, hell. When there is an announcement that chocolatier Willy Wonka is opening his factory to whoever finds 5 golden tickets hidden inside chocolate bars across the world, Grandpa Joe at once gives Charlie unrealistic expectations, telling him that he expects Charlie to find all 5.
Grandpa, do you think I've got a chance to find one?
One. I'm counting on you to find all 5.
This is cruel, as Charlie can barely afford to feed his own family, let alone buy chocolate. Charlie, however, a selfless boy, even tells Grandpa Joe that he will pay for his tobacco money with his paper round from now on.
Here's what's left. You keep it. Except for this. From now on, I'm going to pay for your tobacco.
Which begs the question, if Grandpa Joe cannot work to pay for his own smoking habit, who has been paying for it the whole time? The only logical explanation is that Grandpa Joe has been forcing Charlie's poor, hapless, widowed mother to pay for his own bad habits, like the entitled scum he really is. There is a scene in the movie that I feel really depicts just how sneaky and rotten this old bastard truly is. Whilst the others are asleep, Grandpa Joe gives Charlie a chocolate bar that he bought with his own tobacco money, to give Charlie a chance to win a ticket.
Grandpa, that money was for tobacco.
I told you, Charlie, I've given it up. Go on, open it. 1 ticket left. Now let's see some of that gold.
It seems a nice gesture at first glance, but quickly falls apart when you put 2 and 2 together. Note that Grandpa Joe has waited for everyone else to fall asleep, meaning that he means for this exchange to be in secret. But why? Why would he try to hide that he bought his beloved grandson a chocolate bar? The answer, ironically, lies before us. Grandpa Joe wanted it to be a secret because he has left his bed to sneak out and buy the chocolate. If Grandpa Joe cannot walk, then how did he get the chocolate in the first place? He is a liar and more than likely a benefits cheat trying to conceal his real identity as an able-bodied man. Think about it. Why would an old man who has spent 20 years in bed be able to jump and dance around like Fred fucking Astaire as soon as there's free chocolate available? His muscles would have atrophied from all these years of bed rest. Clearly, he has been getting out of bed at night time so as to not waste away. Which also begs the question, what has he been doing at night time for all these years? I have an answer to that. In one scene, we see a shot of Grandpa Joe's hands on Charlie's shoulders. Look closer. His pinky fingernails look awfully long, don't they? Whilst Charlie's mother has been breaking her back, working in a laundromat to feed her family, and whilst his own wife sleeps almost comatose across from him, Grandpa Joe has been sneaking around at night, doing cocaine and banging hookers, most likely with the family's grocery fund, leaving barely enough money for everyone else to live on. Truly a sickening man. I would liken him to Hitler, but even Hitler doesn't deserve such comparison. Anyway, Charlie finally wins a golden ticket, and that decomposing, decaying, cocaine-riddled cretin Grandpa Joe begins dancing around singing, "I've got a golden ticket," like the selfish lunatic he is. Never mind that Charlie won, it's all about Grandpa Joe. They should have renamed the film Grandpa Joe and the Chocolate Factory. Evil beyond comprehension. Now that we have established that Grandpa Joe has clearly been able to walk this entire time, this throws the whole 4 grandparents forced to share a bed due to their own disabilities plot device out of the window. No, it is safe to say that the other grandparents have been the victims of some sort of sexual perversion from Grandpa Starling. 2 of the grandparents show almost no signs of life, so I'd go as far as saying that Grandpa Joe has been holding them all hostage for his own sick ends. At best, he's a filthy pervert. At worst, he's Joseph Fritzl. Charlie and his grandpa make their way to the factory to meet Wonka. Surely Charlie's mother would have been a more appropriate choice to take along to the factory tour of a lifetime, considering she's been working herself to the bone for the past however many years, but Grandpa Joe is far too inconsiderate to allow a woman to go have fun. I'm not saying he is, but he's definitely a misogynist too. In fact, there's even a frightening scene in which Grandpa Joe touches up Mike TV's mother like a right old perv.
Somebody's touching me!
Now look here, Wonka! Excuse me, question time.
Once properly inside, Grandpa Joe eats his way through the entire factory like the barnyard animal he is. After Augustus Gloop falls into the chocolate river and gets sucked up into the fudge room, lol, a boat comes out of the tunnel to continue the factory tour. Grandpa Joe declares the boat good enough to eat because he is a gluttonous sket that thinks of his stomach first and everyone else second.
Wow, what a boat!
Oh, looks good enough to eat.
Further into the tour, the group enters a room full of bubbles as Wonka is developing a fizzy lifting drink, which causes the people to float. The group ask if they can try some, but Wonka refuses on the basis that the drink is too strong. The group move on, but Grandpa Joe hangs back, busy skulking around looking for anything to steal that isn't nailed down. He then proceeds to steal the fizzy lifting drink, even though Wonka said explicitly not to, and makes Charlie complicit in this thievery, encouraging him to have some as well.
Let's take a drink, Charlie. Nobody's watching.
Yeah.
A small one won't hurt us.
As karma for this rule breaking, Grandpa Joe and Charlie float around, almost getting shredded by a large fan. Way to almost kill your own grandson, you dumbass crook. The pair survive, Charlie fortunately, Grandpa Joe unfortunately. Grandpa Joe is barely out of bed one day and he's already committing felonies and behaving like Harvey Weinstein. Finally, the tour comes to an end as all the other children lose due to their own brattiness. However, Willy Wonka flips on Charlie, telling him that he and Joe broke the rules of the contract they signed as they stole the fizzy lifting drink, and due to this they will not receive the lifetime supply of chocolate. Good day, sir.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You stole fizzy lifting drinks. You bumped into the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized, so you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Except Grandpa Joe, balls as big as brass, turns on Wonka and accuses him of being the crook. No apology, no self-awareness, just threats and insults.
You're a crook. You're a cheat and a swindler. That's what you are. How can you do a thing like this? Build up a little boy's hopes and then smash all his dreams to pieces. You're an inhuman monster.
I said good day.
And then, as if he already isn't the biggest piece of shit in this film, Grandpa Joe tells Charlie that they will give over the everlasting gobstopper, an immortal sweet which never loses its flavour, to Slugworth, one of Wonka's chocolate competitors.
I'll get even with him if it's the last thing I ever do. Slugworth wants a gobstopper, he'll get one.
Thankfully, Charlie doesn't listen, as he returns the sweet to Wonka and it is revealed to all be a test to see if Charlie is pure of heart. As a reward for passing the test, Charlie wins the entire chocolate factory and becomes Wonka's heir to live with him at said factory. The chance of a lifetime, and Grandpa Joe almost ruined everything with his own gluttonous and selfish ways. Charlie, selfless and wholesome, asks Wonka, "What about my family?" Foul until the last line, Grandpa Joe proclaims, "Yeah, what about me?"
So the factory's yours, Charlie. You can move in immediately.
And me?
Absolutely.
No mention of his widowed daughter-in-law or the poor, suffering, almost comatose wife sharing a bed with 2 other people. No, just me. Scratch that, reverse it. They should have named the film Grandpa Joe. With such a terrible role model during his formative years, is it any wonder that Charlie Bucket went insane and ended up being the engineer in Snowpiercer? Interestingly, this film was made in West Germany in 1970. After all the evidence I've shown you of Grandpa Joe's villainy, is it not entirely unreasonable to argue that Grandpa Joe could have possibly been a Nazi war criminal this entire time, hiding out the rest of his days in bed? Is it entirely out of the question to propose that Grandpa Joe could have gone under a different name at one time? Perhaps Grandpa Joseph Mengele. Thank you so much for watching. This is a theory that I've had for a while now, but for more information on this evil nonce, then do check out sayno to grandpajoe.com and grandpajoehate on Reddit. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Every like is another year that Grandpa Joe burns in hell.